Good morning, everybody. BCW Gardens here, and welcome back. So today we're going to be doing more of a long form video for today's video. If you guys saw the short yesterday, you'll know we're going to be planting up this pothos. Now, pothos is one I've been trying to grow for many years, and we have one that's successfully growing up in the green pot on my bookshelf. This one, I am going to possibly put both of them. I got a pot from my parents' house that I used to use for, I don't remember what exactly. Basically what I did was I washed it out, and then this pot, and pop it out. This pot has a catcher on the bottom. And when you are working with plants that are primarily indoors, it's a good idea to get something like this that's going to have a catcher built into it. And that's what I try and do for all of my indoor plants, because I know I'm not the only one who doesn't want to have to clean up a mess if they make a mistake. I would like to be able to I would like not to have to clean up a watery mess. It does happen, even though I have the catchers. It does happen, but I would rather try to not clean that up as much as possible. So, what we are going to do is we're going to be planting. I'm going to plant both of these in the pot. Now, the only reason why I want to do that, and I'm just looking around my room right now just to make sure that's what I want to do. The only reason why I want to do that is just because at this moment, this is the only pot I have. There was a couple others at mom and dad's house that I could have, at my parents' house that I used to use, that I could have used, but most of them don't have the catcher on the bottom, and that's what I really want to look for. Just that way I know that if I water it, it has a way to drain, and it's not going to be that big of a deal. So now I love this plant. This plant is one of my favorites. I got introduced to pothos when I was in college. Yeah, when I was in college, I got introduced to pothos. My professor had us. My professor had us grow pothos. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think correctly. I'm like, hold on. Yeah, my professor had us grow pothos, and for some reason, it did not take. Just die immediately. I was like, oh, okay. I wasn't sure what I did wrong, but now that I'm older and I've actually gone through and looked at watering schedules and stuff like that, I was overwatering it. And with overwatering, it can lead to many different things. One, root rot. Two, it can lead to the top of your soil getting moldy. I've had that happen a few times. There are things that you can use to prevent that. One of them is going to be just water when the top inch is dry. The way you can do that is you take your finger, you go and stick your finger up into the first knuckle. If you take out your finger, or you can do it with a stick as well, you take out your finger and you're just going to stick it in so that you can make sure that the soil is either still moist or not moist. And with that being said, that's the best thing to do to make sure. There's also different tools out there you can get. My mom at one point, when I was first gardening, I can't find these anymore to save my life. And they were so cute. They were these little. I'm going to tell you while I get this potted. They were these little worms. They were these little ceramic worms. And these worms were adorable. And so essentially, what the worms did was you stuck them in the ground, and what they did was they told you when it was time to water. So you stuck it in the ground and you would water throughout the week or whatever, or throughout the week. And what you did was when you watered it, if you weren't sure, like, oh my gosh, should I water this again? You took out the little worm. And if the bottom of the worm was still, if the bottom of the ceramic worm, let's go a little higher. If the bottom of the ceramic worm was still wet, then you didn't water it, because then that means there was still water in the soil. So, yeah, I've been trying to find those things. I can't find them anywhere. Anyways, what I'm doing here is I'm going to be filling the pot about up to this line here with soil. And I'm going to leave, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave a little lip on the top. Hold on, let me just make sure. Okay, so I got it up to there. Let me show you guys. I got up to there. So what I'm going to do is when I do put the pothos in, I'm going to secure it as best I can. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shove that little root down there. Because I want to bury the root completely, but I don't want to bury the leaves. The cool thing with this one is that this one's literally like a stick. Here, I'll show it to you closer. This one's literally a stick, so I can literally just stab this into the pot. So let's get you stabbed into the pot. There we go. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit more soil, not too much. And I'm just going to lightly bury these roots. Now, what I want to do is when I am putting that final top layer on, I'm going to leave a little bit of a gap between the top of the pot and where the soil is. And what that's going to allow is for when I water it, if I need to heavily water it, the water can pool and drain and like soak through without it going over the pot. So get that all nice and pretty. And that, hold on, let me show, there we go. And that is what it looks like. I'm actually very excited to see how this goes. I'm going to water it just a little bit. I'm not going to do, oop, that was, hold on. Let me grab the actual, hold on. I was like, water it with the bowl. No, don't water it with the bowl because the bowl is curved. I'm just going to do a little bit of water, not too much because I do want I'm going to let the water soak all the way through the soil and soak into the soil. But once I water it, and since I'm watering it heavily now, I'm not going to touch this for about a week and a half. Just because I want to give it time to soak up as much of the soil. And even, or as much of the soil, as much of the water. And even then, I'm going to check to make sure. Because what you don't want to do is you don't want to overwater. Overwatering is going to lead to root rot. It's going to lead to possibility of mold and other things. A couple of things, you can do a couple of things to help with that. Like I said before, one of the things that you can do to help with that is going to be to try and figure out your own timing for your plants. Every single plant will be different, and every single plant will require something different. Now, succulents you can neglect for a while just because of the fact that they hold water in their leaves, and they hold a lot of it. And they can take a lot of abuse. I've tested that theory personally. But that's a story for another time. Another thing you can do is to help with the mold and mildew situation is you can use cinnamon. Apparently, cinnamon is a natural antifungal, which honestly I'm not surprised. But it's also kind of interesting because cinnamon is my favorite flavor. I love cinnamon. Okay. So, this guy is now watered, and what I'm going to do is, if you can see behind me, I have a plant stand over here. I am going to put this back there, and I actually want to figure out a name. So if you guys have any naming ideas, put them down in the comments. I'm going to make sure that I read all the comments. But yeah, put them down in the comments. I will read all the comments. I want to figure out a name for this guy. And I'm literally going to take my label maker. I'm going to name it. I'm literally going to put a name right here. So, any name will do. I just need a name. Something strong. If you guys have any naming suggestions, let me know. But that is going to be all for today's video. This was planting of the pothos. 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 I keep getting that wrong, and I'm so sorry. Ugh. Okay, pothos. So for this guy, I need a name. There are 2 plants in here, so I can either do 2 names or just one. Actually, let's just go with 1 name. Let's make them twins. 2 names. I need suggestions for 2 names, and I don't know what I'm thinking of. But anyways, I'm going to put this in the back corner because that's the only room I have, because this pot will not fit on the windowsill, unfortunately. So we will check back on this in about 2 weeks. Yeah, we'll check back on this in about 2 weeks. If you guys have any suggestions for other, if you guys have any suggestions for the pothos, feel free to put them down in the comments below, and I will do my best to answer all questions and comments, either with a video or another comment. I want you all to have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next video.
Hi, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys wanted to see our featured videos, it's going to be here. If you guys want to subscribe, it's going to be on this side. If you guys would like to support the channel and what we do, there's going to be a link in the description for our Patreon, where you can get loads of extra content. As always, have fun and keep on gardening.